Master Classes is the result of about 25 years worth of obsessive compulsive practice and study in the search for the perfect golf swing. I decided very early on that what I was going to do was I was going to learn the swing techniques of all the great champions first, and that way I would find out if any of them had found the perfect golf swing, or at least the perfect golf swing for me. I was determined to do them myself, to really get to the essence of each one of the golfers. But the result as a tournament golfer was very bad, because I became almost schizophrenic on the golf course, because I never knew who was going to turn up that day, whether it was going to be Varden or Snead or Nicklaus or whoever. I did actually end up accomplishing my first goal, which was to learn all of those techniques. And so when my body finally told me that it had had enough, when my neck and my back and my knees and my hands and everything else had finally said, okay, that's it, I decided that I wanted to put what I had learned down so that the average golfer would have a choice, because a lot of PGA pros will tell you their method, and there are certain methods that are approved and certain that aren't. And what I found is that the great champions all had different swing techniques, and a lot of them aren't anything close to the accepted modern teachings. So what this book does is that it gives the average golfer an opportunity to look at all these different golfers and then say, oh, well, I like that one, or that guy has a similar body type to me, so maybe I'll try that one, maybe that'll work for me. So I've made it as concise and as simple as possible so that the average golfer can get the essence of each one very easily and then put it into practice for themselves. I have always, even since I was a little boy, been fascinated by two very specific things when it comes to what they call the inner game or the inner journey. Like most kids, I was a complete sports nut, and I was always fascinated between the relationship between what was going on the inside and the results on the outside. How could I miss an easy shot that I'd hit 1,000 times in one moment, and then hit the most extraordinary shot of my life in the next moment? And the other thing that always fascinated me was the possibility, and it still fascinates me, is the possibility of a happiness that is not the result of something that happened on the outside, that isn't dependent on the results, because no matter how well focused you are, the results are not always going to be there. And so I was always fascinated, is it possible to experience a real happiness, not an imaginary happiness, not daydreaming or something like that, but is it possible just to enjoy being alive and to have something really good and really meaningful and really extraordinary, that isn't the result of something that happens on the outside? What I found, to my delight, was that not only is there a happiness like that, but that when you experience it, it actually improves your ability to function. It takes you to your peak performance. So in a very ironic sort of way, when you give up your attachment to the results, and everybody knows this, everybody has heard this before, but I think that what's a little bit different of what I'm saying is that don't just play some sort of mental game where you fool yourself into not caring about the results, but actually go inside and feel a certain kind of happiness. And it just so happens that it brings out the best in you in every situation. That became the source material, about 3 years worth of blogging and quotes that were often put on my website on the subject of happiness, and that's really all what it's all about. And I was actually on a radio podcast the other day, and the interviewer asked me to summarize the secret to happiness, and I said, how much time do I have? 60 seconds. It's like, the pivotal question for all of humanity, for all time. And he said, well, if you can do it in less than that, that would be good. So I said, okay, if you want me to summarize it very, very quickly, here it goes. But don't interrupt me, and I'll give it to you right now as well. And what I said is that to him is that you want to feel good all the time. That one is always there. You want to feel good inside as well as out. If you feel that want, rather than thinking about it or theorizing about it or creating formulas for it, it will grow stronger, and you will eventually realize that that innate desire to enjoy being alive actually feels good in itself. Well, for those people who have been reading my reading my blogs and Peace is Practical, and been listening to me talk about peace, and I think they were a little bit surprised by Everybody Dies. Just the title itself kind of shocked a lot of my fans. And I remember one time I was sitting, I'm not going to say the name of the movie, but I was sitting in this musty old building, and just a huge production, and the building hadn't been used since Katrina, and it was full of mold, and it was a really old New Orleans theater, and I was just started looking around and said, I wonder how many different ways there are for a person to get seriously injured or even killed on a movie set, and I'm still counting. It's one of those weird thoughts that you get once in a while, and you suddenly realize how lucky you are to still be alive. But that was sort of the inspiration for the original idea for a cursed movie production, or a movie production, I should say, that is cursed by a series of tragedies. And Everybody Dies is a comedy of tragedies, if that makes any sense. So you can call it a tragicomedy if you like. Well, then it's going to become a topic for discussion around the world, like what is going on, and how are we going to stop this? Should we stop this? And should it be banned? And what are the implications? And who's behind it? Is this an Al-Qaeda plot? Is this a CIA plot? Is this a KGB plot? Is the multi-billionaire a total lunatic and he's taking some kind of sick revenge on Hollywood? And so it becomes a political and emotional hot potato for the entire world, and everybody starts weighing in on what should be done, and just the freak out that happens because of this film and all the attention that's getting in the newspapers and the TV and everything that's happening around the world. So the whole thing snowballs. Of course, I'm not going to tell you the ending or what the title means, because you won't realize exactly what the title means until the very end. So Everybody Dies, the movie, is a novel written in the style of the movie about a film production that is cursed with a series of outrageous tragedies. I have to confess that of all of my works, I think that this one is the closest to my heart. It really expresses the journey of a man who is at the end of his life, and his life has been shortened by a terminal disease that nobody knows about but him. When he gets the word from his doctor that the time is really short, he sits down to write the story of two loves. One of them is his love of life itself, and that relates to the inner journey. Not that he is the equivalent in any way, shape, or form to the Buddha, but he experiences the same thing, and he is transformed in the same way. And he discovers a way to look within and to keep that experience going. And so, for a while, he's this really unusual, animal, so to speak, in the sense that he's very, very young. He's not even out of high school yet, and he has this incredible peace and inner strength and wisdom. But there's one thing that this modern day Buddha had not dealt with or questioned or really had to overcome. He never had met a woman who really touched his heart. And so he heads off to university and he meets, as he describes, the smartest, the sexiest, and the funniest woman that he's ever met, and he falls in love. The story is basically about their 2.5-year roller coaster. It's not just like great and then awful, because they both love each other so much. They both really make an effort to make it work, and they both make efforts to learn and to overcome, what they need to overcome to keep it together somehow. And then one falls out of love, and then the other one falls in love, and then vice versa, and it's up and down, and they're both growing, they're very young, and seeing other people, and it's just crazy, it's just wild, and there's a bit of insanity that's involved, and potentially deadly situations happen, and it's just flat out torrid passion. Again, I don't want to give away the ending, but it is a look back on the greatest love of his life, next to the love of life itself. And so the book becomes, since he's leaving this earth, it becomes kind of a final farewell to not only to her, but to life itself, but in a beautiful way.